So you have to remember, when I work in newsrooms, it's a fact that every anti-Harry and Meghan story comes from Kensington Palace.
But I was doing a piece for one of the nationals, writing a piece, and I was told, because I'm quite critical of the monarchy in many ways, I was told I could say what I want about Harry and Meghan, but I had to lay off William and Kate. That was the instruction from the editor. So I think there was an element of truth in what he says.
Much of the negativity towards the couple is coming from within the royal family. The royal family and staff of the royal family are the ones that are very often leaking these stories to the press.
I mean, they can deny it all they like till they're blue in the face, but there's been an awful lot of leaking, particularly from Kensington Palace, about how things were developing. And
have you heard from anyone in the palace thanking you for the, serious defense of them?
I've had some messages communicated to me on behalf of several members of the royal family.
Upper level
people? We're very grateful that. Well, I'm not going to go into who it was, but what I would say is gratitude that somebody was standing up for them.
When I was working for the BBC, a very senior royal correspondent at the BBC, I was excluded from parties and events. I remember one big party at Buckingham Palace. I wasn't invited as the royal correspondent. Piers Morgan was as the editor of the Mirror. David Yellen was as the editor of the Sun. And I used to say to them, why? And why do you plant stories? And they did. Plant is a strong word. Give stories to the tabloids first. Why don't you come to me and I'll broadcast and they can follow me? But that was never the way press worked.
I think that most of the general public would assume that the monarchy are at the mercy of the British press, when the reality is there is a far greater level of manipulation that goes on from the royal courts to the media than Joe Public would ever believe.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We're diving into some real royal chaos today. And not the type you'd see in a Netflix drama. This is the real-life stuff that plays out behind palace walls and across the front pages of British newspapers. Let's talk about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Again, right? But this time, we're not just talking about the two of them. We're digging into the why they became public enemy number one in the British media almost overnight, and why even now, years later, they can't escape the headlines. And let me tell you, it's not because they're doing anything wrong. No, it's because there's a whole system, a media machine, that's been working overtime to turn public opinion against them. And here's the kicker, the journalists involved, some of them have admitted it. Yeah, you heard that right. There have been journalists, reputable ones, who've openly said they were either nudged, told, or outright instructed to lay into Harry and Meghan while protecting others in the royal family. One former royal correspondent said it outright. He was told he could write whatever he wanted about Harry and Meghan, no problem. But when it came to William and Kate, off limits, don't touch them, protect the heirs. It's all part of that so-called invisible contract. The royals feed the media exclusives, and the media plays nice with certain members of the firm. But here's where it crosses the line. When journalists, the people who are supposed to report facts, expose truth, and hold power to account, start acting like PR agents for the palace, that's no longer journalism. That's propaganda. Let's just call it what it is, unethical. This isn't some conspiracy theory cooked up on social media. This has been confirmed by the people inside the system. There are real confessions from people who've worked in major newsrooms that the media coverage of Harry and Meghan was never about balance or truth. It was about agenda. It was about control. And I've got to say it, that's disgusting, absolutely shameful. Imagine waking up every day knowing there are coordinated efforts from institutions as powerful as the monarchy and the press to smear you, to twist your words, to make you out as some kind of villain just for existing outside the mold. That's what Harry and Meghan went through. Meghan in particular faced some of the most racist, misogynistic, and outright hostile coverage I've seen in a generation. And many journalists knew it was happening, some participated, and some stayed quiet, which is just as bad. We're talking about people who wrote hit pieces on Meghan for the pettiest, most ridiculous things, like holding her baby bump, wearing nail polish, closing a car door. I mean, seriously? They were manufacturing outrage just to keep the clicks coming, and they knew it. Worse, These were the same outlets that gave other royals, let's just say the more preferred royals, a complete free pass. When William and Kate ghosted events, barely worked or disappeared from the public eye, the press called it rest or a well-earned break. But when Harry and Meghan went to do charity work in Africa or launched mental health projects, they were accused of attention-seeking. That double standard? Well, that's what drove Harry and Meghan away. It wasn't just the media attacks, but also the fact that the institution did nothing to stop it. In some cases, they actually fueled it. And again, the journalists who played along, they weren't doing the public any favors. They were really just protecting access. They were protecting their careers. And in the process, they helped destroy people's reputations and mental health. Let's not forget, Harry himself has spoken openly about how the media treatment of Meghan reminded him of what his mother, Princess Diana, went through. The difference is, now he's speaking out. He's fighting back. And for that, he's been branded a traitor. Just think about how twisted that is. So when we look at this situation now, when we see how Harry and Meghan have stepped away, built a new life, started projects that matter, and are telling their story in their own words, that's not running away. That's reclaiming power. That's what anyone would do when they're being lied about and attacked by institutions they once trusted. And yet, the press still hasn't learned, because guess what? That media machine still needs a villain. And if Harry and Meghan won't play the game anymore, who's next? Right now, it's looking like the target might be Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Yep, the headlines are starting to circle around them. Stories talking about how they might be brought into the fold again, take on more royal duties, support Prince William in modernizing the monarchy. On the surface, it sounds fine, but when you know how the game works, you start to see the setup. Beatrice and Eugenie have mostly stayed out of the mess. They've lived relatively private lives, had jobs, started families, and, kept their heads down. But now that William and Kate are struggling to carry the weight of the monarchy alone, especially after pushing Harry and Meghan out, it seems like the palace might be scrambling. And who better to pull into the spotlight than the two York princesses? But here's the thing. This has all the hallmarks of history repeating itself. We've seen what happens when royals get thrown into the public eye just to be used as shields or distractions. The media starts off soft, builds them up, and then when the clicks slow down, they turn. They criticize their clothes, their parenting, their work ethic. They tear them down just like they did with Meghan. And the media will do it again unless people speak up and say enough is enough. This isn't about loving or hating the royal family. This is about basic accountability and fairness. Journalists are supposed to report the truth, not act as mouthpieces for power. And yet, here we are, still watching the cycle play out in real time. It's not journalism, it's performance, it's manipulation. And honestly, people are starting to see through it. Which brings me back to Harry and Meghan. Because honestly, good for them. Good for stepping away. Good for refusing to be the palace's scapegoats. Good for refusing to play by the media's rules. They're not perfect, no one is, but at least they're trying to live life on their own terms, without the constant interference of tabloids and courtiers. Meanwhile, the same system that pushed them out is now trying to patch itself back together, trying to make Beatrice and Eugenie the new working royals, trying to sell the public on the idea that William is going to shake up the monarchy. Please. This is the same William who reportedly has no interest in the traditional royal grind. No surprise appearances, no ribbon cuttings, no heavy lifting, just a few photo ops and calls for privacy, while the press tries to spin it as modern monarchy. It's smoke and mirrors, and people aren't buying it anymore. So yeah, this is where we're at. A monarchy in crisis, a media system complicit in the downfall of two of the most relatable royals they ever had. And now they're scrambling to find new characters for their drama. But the audience? We've seen behind the curtain, we know how the show works now, and the truth always comes out in the end. So, I'll wrap it up here, but I want to hear from you. What do you think about journalists admitting they were told to bash Harry and Meghan? How do we hold the media accountable for the harm they've caused, not just to individuals but to public trust overall? And do you think Beatrice and Eugenie are really stepping up, or are they just the next convenient distraction? Let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. Take care of yourselves, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.